My sister kidnapped my daughter to take her to Disney World. My mom defended her actions and said I was being cruel for pressing charges. My sister Vanessa, 36F, tried to kidnap my daughter Lily, 8F, to take her to Disney World. The worst part? My mom, 62F, is defending her actions and making me feel like I'm the bad guy in this situation. For some background, Vanessa has had a troubled life. During her teenage years, she fell in with the wrong crowd and developed serious substance abuse issues. She dropped out of high school and our parents tried everything to help her, but she was stubborn and refused any assistance. I was younger than her by 4 years, so I watched all this happen while trying to stay focused on my own education. When Vanessa was 22, she got a job as a bartender at a local pub where she met her ex-husband, Ryan. He saw something in her that the rest of us couldn't see at that point: potential. Their relationship motivated her to finally seek treatment for her addiction issues. She initially resisted, but eventually completed the program and seemed to turn her life around. They got married when she was 24, and they had 2 beautiful kids, Emma, 12F, and Tyler, 10M. For several years, things were great. Our family was proud of her recovery, and while we always had that lingering fear she might relapse, we supported her journey. I, 34F, got married to James around the same time, and we had our daughter Lily a couple years later. Everything changed 3 years ago when our dad died suddenly from a massive heart attack. None of us saw it coming, and it hit Vanessa particularly hard. Dad was always her biggest supporter, even during her darkest times. After his funeral, Vanessa spiraled into depression but refused to get help. She kept saying she was fine and could handle it on her own. Unlike her, I sought grief counseling to process my feelings about Dad's death, which helped me tremendously. About 6 months after Dad died, I started noticing signs that Vanessa was using again. She began dropping her kids off at my house frequently, often with little to no notice. Her excuse was always that she needed to blow off steam with friends. Since I work from home as a freelance graphic designer and Lily enjoyed playing with her cousins, I initially didn't mind helping out. But it quickly became a burden. Vanessa would drop the kids off in the morning and not pick them up until late at night. She never considered that I had deadlines to meet or that her last-minute requests disrupted my work schedule. I tried hinting that I was busy or that I needed more notice, but she either didn't pick up on it or chose to ignore me. Things came to a head when Ryan found Vanessa high at a park one afternoon. We had been trying to reach her for hours, worried sick because she wasn't answering her phone. After that incident, my mom and I tried to convince her to go back to treatment, but she refused, insisting she could handle it on her own. I finally reached out to Ryan and told him about the situation with the kids. I felt guilty about it, but I couldn't continue being Vanessa's unpaid babysitter while she disappeared for hours. Ryan was furious when he found out how often she was leaving the kids with me. He started looking more closely at her behavior and eventually discovered she was having an affair with her dealer. The divorce was ugly. Ryan's lawyer presented evidence of Vanessa's addiction, neglect, and unfitness as a mother. The court ordered mandatory counseling and lifestyle changes before she could regain custody. In the meantime, Ryan got full custody of Emma and Tyler. When Vanessa tried to reach out to her kids, they refused to speak with her. Tyler would cry on the phone, and Emma would hang up. This devastated Vanessa, and I genuinely felt sorry for her despite everything. After losing custody, Vanessa started showing up at my house every day. She'd arrive right after breakfast and stay until after dinner. It was clear she was using Lily as a substitute for her own children. I tried encouraging her to make friends or find other social outlets, but she insisted being around Lily was enough for her. Vanessa started overstepping boundaries with Lily. She took her for ice cream after school without asking me first. When I confronted her about it, she said Lily deserved a treat and that I was being too strict. She also started interfering with Lily's homework, telling her things like she didn't need to study hard because a pretty girl like her could just marry rich. When I called her out on these comments, she'd argue that she was a parent too and knew what she was talking about, completely ignoring the fact that she'd lost custody of her own children. Lily started getting annoyed with Vanessa's constant presence. She told me she felt like she couldn't have any time to herself because her aunt was always there. One evening, my husband jokingly said, "Why doesn't Vanessa just move in and be our nanny?" To our shock, Vanessa took the suggestion seriously and proposed the idea on the spot. When I firmly declined, she accused me of being selfish and suggested I was an inadequate parent. I asked her to leave, and after realizing she'd gone too far, she apologized. A few months passed, and things seemed to calm down. Lily's 8th birthday was approaching, and she had been begging us to go to Disney World. James and I planned a family trip as her birthday present. When Vanessa heard about our plans, she insisted on handling all the arrangements. She said James would only need to pay, and she would take care of everything else. We agreed, thinking it would be a nice way for her to contribute and feel included. The day before we were supposed to leave, Vanessa picked Lily up from school, which was pre-arranged. Hours passed, and they didn't come home. My calls to Vanessa went straight to voicemail. I tried calling my mom too, but she didn't answer either. I contacted the school and confirmed that Vanessa had picked up Lily, which at least gave me some relief that they were together. As the evening wore on, I became increasingly panicked. James came home from work, and we were both frantic with worry. I finally got through to my mom around 8 p.m., and she initially claimed not to know anything. But when I mentioned calling the police, her tone changed. She admitted that Vanessa and Lily were on their way to Disney World. According to my mom, Vanessa had been planning this for weeks. She felt she was being deprived of experiences with her own children and wanted to create special memories with Lily. My mom said she had tried to talk Vanessa out of it initially but eventually gave in, believing that it wasn't a big deal and that Vanessa needed this to help with her depression. I was furious that my mom had hidden this from me and was now defending Vanessa's actions. She kept telling me to stop worrying and just let them have their trip. I immediately called 911 and reported the kidnapping, giving them Vanessa's license plate number and explaining my concerns about her history with substance abuse. James was equally outraged when I told him what had happened. A few hours later, the police called to inform us that they had intercepted Vanessa's car. She had resisted arrest and was tased before being taken into custody. Lily was safe and being brought back to us. When Lily returned home, she told us that Vanessa had lied to her, saying that James and I couldn't take her to Disney World because we were too busy with work. Vanessa told Lily she was saving her birthday by taking her there herself. Lily had no idea she was essentially being kidnapped. Since then, my mom has been calling nonstop, blaming me for what happened. She keeps saying I'm tearing the family apart and asking how I could do this to my own sister. She insists Vanessa's actions were harmless and that I'm being cruel by pressing charges. I've stopped answering her calls because I can't deal with her guilt trips right now. So, am I overreacting to this situation? Should I drop the charges against my sister for the sake of family peace? I feel like I'm going crazy with my mom constantly telling me I'm in the wrong, but I can't imagine letting this go without consequences. Update 1 First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments on my original post. It's been a week since the incident, and I wanted to provide an update on the situation. The past few days have been incredibly difficult for our family. I keep replaying the hours when Lily was missing, that unique terror that only a parent can understand. The not knowing, the horrible scenarios that run through your mind, the feeling that your heart has been ripped from your chest, it's a nightmare I wouldn't wish on anyone. Several people asked if I would have given Vanessa permission to take Lily to Disney World if she had asked properly. The answer is absolutely not. Given her history with addiction and her recent behavior, I don't trust her to be responsible for my child for multiple days, hundreds of miles away from home. Even if she apologized sincerely, which she hasn't, my answer would remain the same. James has been struggling too. He couldn't return to work for 3 days after the incident. For the first few nights, he slept on the floor next to Lily's bed because he was so afraid something would happen to her again. Lily seems to be doing okay on the surface, but she's been having nightmares, and doesn't want to go to school because she's afraid Vanessa will show up again. We've been working with a lawyer to pursue a restraining order against both Vanessa and my mom. Vanessa is facing charges of kidnapping and resisting arrest. My mom has been trying to pull strings to get her the best legal representation possible, draining her savings in the process. One positive development is that the rest of our family has been incredibly supportive. My aunts, uncles, and cousins have all reached out to express their shock at Vanessa's actions and my mom's response. My Aunt Clara, my mom's sister, called me yesterday and said she couldn't believe my mom was enabling Vanessa's behavior. She told me that my mom has always had a blind spot when it comes to Vanessa, treating her like she can do no wrong while holding me to much higher standards. This double standard has existed since we were children. When Vanessa was struggling with addiction as a teenager, my mom made excuses for her behavior and blamed her friends for being a bad influence. Meanwhile, if I got a B on a test instead of an A, I was lectured about not trying hard enough. I never really thought about this pattern until now, but looking back, it explains a lot about our family dynamic. Ryan, Vanessa's ex-husband, has also been supportive. He called to check on Lily and offered to speak to her about what happened, thinking it might help her to talk to someone who understands what it's like to deal with Vanessa's behavior. Emma and Tyler have been kept away from all of this drama, which I think is for the best. They're still processing their own feelings about their mother's actions and the divorce. My mom showed up at our house yesterday unannounced. I didn't let her in, but she stood on our porch yelling about how I was destroying the family and how Vanessa was only trying to give Lily a special experience. She kept saying that if I really cared about family, I would drop the charges and give Vanessa another chance. James eventually came to the door and told her to leave or we would call the police. She left, but not before warning that I would regret turning my back on my sister. I feel like I'm mourning the loss of my family while they're still alive. I always thought that when I had children, they would have a close relationship with their grandparents and aunts and uncles. Now I'm faced with the reality that I need to protect my daughter from the very people who should love and care for her. A friend suggested family therapy with my mom and Vanessa, but I don't think we're ready for that. Vanessa hasn't shown any remorse for her actions, and my mom continues to defend her. Until they can acknowledge the severity of what happened and take responsibility for their actions, I don't see how therapy would be productive. We've installed security cameras around our house and changed our locks. Lily's school has been notified that only James or I are authorized to pick her up, and they've been given photos of Vanessa and my mom with strict instructions not to release Lily to them under any circumstances. The preliminary hearing for Vanessa's case is scheduled for next month. My lawyer advised me that my mom might try to use her influence to pressure me into dropping the charges, especially as the court date approaches. He suggested documenting any attempts at contact or harassment from either of them to strengthen our case for the restraining order. I never imagined I would be cutting ties with my family, especially so soon after losing my dad. There are moments when I feel overwhelmed with grief for what could have been, but then I remind myself that my priority is protecting Lily. No family relationship is worth putting my child at risk. Update 2: It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. The preliminary hearing for Vanessa's case took place last week, and it was even more dramatic than I expected. My mom hired an expensive attorney for Vanessa, depleting what was left of her retirement savings. The lawyer tried to argue that Vanessa hadn't actually kidnapped Lily because she had permission to pick her up from school, and that this was just a misunderstanding between family members. Fortunately, the judge didn't buy it, especially after hearing testimony from the arresting officers about Vanessa's resistance, and the fact that she had crossed state lines without parental permission. What shocked me the most during the hearing was seeing my mom on the witness stand. She testified that I had always been jealous of Vanessa and that I was using this situation to get revenge for perceived slights throughout our childhood. She claimed that I had known about the Disney trip all along and had changed my mind at the last minute, then called the police out of spite. It was surreal listening to her rewrite history to protect Vanessa. The judge saw through her lies, especially when our family texts were presented as evidence, clearly showing my panic when Lily didn't come home and my mom's initial denial about knowing where they were. The case is moving forward, and Vanessa has been denied bail due to being considered a flight risk, given that she was already crossing state lines when apprehended. After the hearing, my mom confronted me in the courthouse parking lot. She was livid, blaming me for ruining both her and Vanessa's lives. She told me that she had changed her will to remove me as a beneficiary and was leaving everything to Vanessa to help her recover from this ordeal. I told her that I didn't care about her money, all I wanted was for my daughter to be safe. What truly blindsided me was what happened next. My mom revealed that she had known about Vanessa's relapse long before any of us suspected it. Apparently, she had caught Vanessa using in her bathroom during a family dinner 6 months after Dad died, but instead of confronting her or telling anyone, she gave her money to help her get back on her feet. In reality, she was funding Vanessa's addiction while simultaneously enabling her to maintain the facade of recovery. I was speechless. All those times I had struggled to juggle work while watching Vanessa's kids, all the worry and stress about her disappearances, my mom had known what was happening and said nothing. She could have intervened before things got so bad that Vanessa lost custody of her children, but she chose to protect Vanessa's secret instead. When I asked her why, she said something that will haunt me forever. She said Vanessa had always been the fragile one who needed more protection and support, while I was the strong one who could take care of myself. This explained so much about our family dynamic. I wasn't valued for my stability and responsibility. I was just expected to shoulder burdens without complaint while Vanessa was coddled despite her destructive choices. After this revelation, I decided to reach out to Ryan to tell him what my mom had admitted. He wasn't surprised. He told me that he had suspected my mom was giving Vanessa money during their marriage but could never prove it. This new information has made him consider limiting my mom's access to Emma and Tyler as well, which makes me sad for the kids but is probably for the best. On a more positive note, Lily has been doing better. She's back in school full-time and her nightmares have become less frequent. We've been focusing on creating positive family experiences to help her feel secure again. Last weekend, we went camping with some close friends who have children Lily's age, and it was wonderful to see her laughing and playing without looking over her shoulder. James and I have been to see a counselor together to work through our feelings about the situation. The counselor helped us realize that we were both carrying a lot of guilt, me for not recognizing the patterns in my family sooner, and James for not being more assertive about his discomfort with Vanessa's constant presence in our home. We're learning to forgive ourselves and focus on moving forward as a united front. The restraining order against Vanessa and my mom was granted last week. It's a strange feeling knowing that legally, my mother and sister cannot come near me, my husband, or my daughter. Part of me is relieved, but another part mourns the family I thought I had. I've started reconnecting with friends I had somewhat neglected while dealing with Vanessa's drama over the years. It's been eye-opening to realize how much of my life was consumed by my sister's problems and how many of my own needs I set aside to help her. I'm working on establishing healthier boundaries in all my relationships now. Next week is a formal arraignment where Vanessa will enter her plea. My lawyer expects her to plead not guilty despite the overwhelming evidence against her. I'm dreading having to testify if this goes to trial, but I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to ensure there are consequences for what she did. Some family secrets should never be kept. Update 3: It's been 6 months since this nightmare began, and today I'm finally ready to share what I hope will be my final update on this situation. The legal proceedings are over, and we're all trying to move forward with our lives. Vanessa eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges of custodial interference and child endangerment. The prosecutor agreed to the plea deal after considering that it was her first criminal offense, despite her history of addiction, and that Lily wasn't physically harmed during the incident. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison with the possibility of parole after 12 months, plus mandatory substance abuse treatment and psychological evaluation. My mom attended every court hearing, sitting behind Vanessa with a stony expression. She never once looked in my direction or acknowledged my presence. After the sentencing, I overheard her telling Vanessa's lawyer that she would keep money in Vanessa's commissary account and make sure she had the best legal representation for any future appeals. It seems she's fully committed to supporting Vanessa regardless of her actions. The restraining orders against both of them remain in effect. The judge actually extended the original timeframe after reviewing evidence of my mom's attempts to contact Lily through her school friends' parents. She had been approaching parents at school pickup, introducing herself as Lily's grandmother, and asking them to pass gifts and messages to Lily. Thankfully, one parent recognized her from the photo I had shared with the school administration and alerted me immediately. Ryan has kept his word about limiting my mom's access to Emma and Tyler. He told me that my mom showed up at their house one weekend when the kids were with him, demanding to see her grandchildren. When he refused, she threatened to take him to court for grandparents' rights. Ryan's lawyer assured him that given the circumstances and the existing restraining order our family has against her, her case would be extremely weak. Emma, who is now 13, has started asking questions about what happened with her mom. Ryan has been honest with her in an age-appropriate way, explaining that Vanessa made some poor choices that led to serious consequences. Emma asked if she could write a letter to Lily, which I thought was incredibly mature of her. The letter was sweet and simple, just telling Lily that what happened wasn't her fault and that she was still her cousin no matter what. Lily has been doing remarkably well. We decided to finally take that Disney World trip over spring break, creating new, positive memories to replace the association with Vanessa's kidnapping attempt. Lily was hesitant at first, but once we got there, she had an amazing time. She's been seeing a child psychologist who specializes in trauma, which has helped her process her feelings about what happened. James and I have grown stronger through this ordeal. We've become much more intentional about our communication and making decisions together as a team. We've also established clear boundaries with extended family members and friends, making it clear that anyone who tries to pressure us into reconciling with my mom or Vanessa will not be welcome in our lives. My Aunt Clara has become a surrogate mother figure to me in many ways. She calls regularly to check on us, and has been a consistent source of support throughout this whole process. She told me recently that she had always seen the favoritism my mom showed toward Vanessa but didn't speak up because she didn't want to cause family discord. She regrets that now and has apologized for not being more supportive when I was younger. As for my relationship with my mom and Vanessa, I've come to accept that it's permanently damaged. I no longer hope for reconciliation or dream of a happy family reunion. Some betrayals are too profound to overcome, and trying to force forgiveness would only lead to more pain and potentially put Lily at risk again. I've learned a lot about family dynamics, addiction, and enabling behavior through this experience. I've realized that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is step away from toxic relationships, even when those relationships are with people who are supposed to love and protect you. Blood doesn't automatically entitle someone to a place in your life, especially if they've proven themselves untrustworthy. Last week, I received a letter from Vanessa through her lawyer. I debated whether to read it at all but decided I needed closure. The letter was full of justifications and half apologies. She was sorry I was hurt, but she still believed she was doing what was best for Lily. There was no real accountability or understanding of the gravity of her actions. I didn't respond and don't plan to. Moving forward, we're focusing on building our lives around people who truly care about our well-being. We've created a chosen family of close friends who have supported us throughout this ordeal. Lily is thriving in this environment of stability and unconditional love. Sometimes I think about my dad and wonder what he would make of all this. I like to believe he would be proud of me for protecting my daughter, even at the cost of my relationship with my mom and sister. In the end, that's what matters most, breaking the cycle of dysfunction and creating a safer, healthier family for the next generation. While this chapter of our lives has been painful, it's also been clarifying. I know who I am, what I value, and who I can trust. There's a certain peace in that knowledge, even amidst the loss. Some family ties may be broken beyond repair, but the ones that remain have become stronger than ever.